Struggling families are struggling for a variety of reasons. On the screen, you see just a small number of the reasons. Now, most people look at this list or a list similar to this and have a visceral reaction to some of these. They're offended. They're amazed by it. Other people will look at a list like this and see things on here and be like, well, I've experienced this. This is no big deal. Okay, big deal. And even other items on the list, people will look at and have the reaction of, well, everybody experiences this. This is no big deal. They should get over it. Well, every family is different. Their culture is different. Their history is different. The way they think and react in the insular family is different. And so having one of or more of these issues that come into their family can often push them over the brink, just because it's too much to deal with, and they move into the ranks of the struggling family. Many times, struggling families are struggling because one person in the family has chosen something. They have no malintent toward the rest of the family, but when it comes into the light, that person gets the support that they need, but the rest of the family members don't. They're left to figure it out. They're left to heal on their own, and they're often unable to do that in an efficient way or an effective way without some external support. One of the issues that occurs for struggling families is that people who find out about it typically will want to work with the whole family at first. Now, there's a reason for that. If they are unsafe, their home has burned down, there's someone after them. These are real life experiences that happen to families. But once their safety is assured and they're in a place, one of the very first things that I've learned to do is to make sure that I find one person in the family that I can initially partner with. And that one person becomes the linchpin, if you will, to helping create trust with the rest of the family. But starting out with a family is never what you want to do after you know that they're safe. You want to find one person in the family that you can communicate with, and you want to build a partnership with them. You're going to bring resources to them to help them, and they're going to bring information and resources for you so that you can help the rest of the family. And then after a reasonable period of time, and you'll see what that is in a few minutes, then it'll be time to introduce the whole family and bring them in together. And this is regardless of the age of the family members. I could tell you tons of stories. I won't take the time to do that, but I do want to take you through some strategic milestones as you're working with struggling families. One of the very first things that you want to do with that partnership of one is to begin to identify how they define family. Many of us define family as blood and marriage. That's what I might label a traditional family. But many, and increasing numbers of underage children, of adults, of senior adults find that they are in a different kind of family. They're in what I call an adopted by the heart family. They do not have any traditional family members left for whatever reason, and they find people around them that they can do life with and that will do life with them. They show each other trust, they show each other respect, and they learn to love and support each other as they walk through life's journey together. Every once in a while, when I'm working with a struggling family and I found that partnership of one, and I ask the question about who is your family, I'll get a response that gives me the idea that they don't know. Maybe they've had a difficult conversation with someone in their family, however they define it, and they may need a little bit of time. And sometimes I will progress to, who do you know that you would like to be part of your family? Because sometimes that person really does love this individual that I'm partnering with. It's just the person right now can't feel that or sense it. And so identifying how this person defines family becomes really critically important. Another thing that you'll want to progress to as you become aware that this family is struggling is to find out who knows that they're struggling. And this will give you several pieces of information. Number one, it's an easy question. Who knows what's going on? It's an easy question. It doesn't put any judgment on anyone, and it allows you to find out who this partnership of one that you're talking with, who their confidants are. It's frequent that people will talk about their struggling family with colleagues or with extended family, grandparents or neighbors, someone at their house of worship. They'll talk about this struggling family experience with those people. Now, very frequently, they are not telling the whole story. So this confidant or these confidants have small pieces of information, but they don't have the full story. Once you start putting those pieces together, that will give you an idea about the length of time that the situation has been going on. Not because you have to ask your partnership of one person, but as you listen to them talk about who knows, that sort of thing, it will become pretty obvious how long this has been going on. And I don't mean by that you'll have a number of years and a number of days. I do mean this has been more than a decade. Wow, this has been since they were 3. Wow, it sounds like this just started about 6 months ago. That's important because that will lead you to also determine and find out what other professionals are involved. Do the educators at the school know about what's going on. Maybe they don't know what, but maybe they know that something is going on. Or have the police been called to this home? Has there been, have fire professionals been involved with this family? Have mental health professionals in the community, houses of worship, have other professional groups been involved in supporting this family? And this will help you to put together, again, other pieces of the puzzle so that you're beginning to put the whole puzzle together. One of the things that's critical, and you heard me mention it earlier, is a non-judgmental mindset. And it's very difficult for us sometimes, especially in certain situations, to completely check our judgment because it's just so offensive. And it is. Some of these things are so offensive. But the person that you're communicating with already feels that shame and guilt. Hi, just a quick interruption from our training video. I wanted to introduce myself. My name is Marcia Denton, and I've been supporting struggling families for a lot of years now. I am a retired educator, over 20 years of experience, and I found a personal passion in that work for supporting families who were struggling. Because what I learned, whether it was either with early childhood students, those in elementary school, middle school, high school, or at the collegiate and university level, is that people have difficulty learning and taking advantage of those opportunities in front of them if they are in a struggling family. They just are somewhere else. It could be that they're emotionally hijacked. It could be that their subconscious mind is preventing them from believing that this is an opportunity for them. Lots of possibilities. But that has become a personal passion, and I wanted to share some of what I've learned through that experience with you. Because most of us were not trained on how do you support a struggling family. That just wasn't part of what we did. There are some limited community resources, but they are very overstressed and unable to do what even they want to do to support our struggling families. I hope you will finish watching this video and then you'll schedule a discovery call so that we can discover together how can we work together to support the struggling families in your community. I look forward to communicating with you. And so now, without further ado, let's get back to what's important. Let's get back to our training. You see here 6 different cells. When someone is in a state of crisis, they're in stress, they're in fight, flight, or freeze mentality. Their eyes widen, and it appears as though they're looking for a life raft. But what they are usually looking for is the next attack. They're on guard. They're trying to protect themselves. They aren't seeing, and a lot of times it's because their subconscious mind won't allow them to see opportunity and hope and trust and respect that's right in front of them. Mentally, they're trying to mentally process it, but they've very often been told, this is what you deserve. This is what you should have. This is why this has happened because of you or your choices or your behavior. But if I move to the right now to that emotional box, that subconscious mind, our heart and our subconscious mind are more connectedly linked than most of the other organs and pathways in our body. So that heart and that subconscious mind are defining how I see myself. And if I've been living in a place where I've been told I'm wrong, I'm bad, whatever the language has been, that becomes my self-image. And I feel shame and I feel guilt, and that makes it much more difficult to reach out and tell someone. I'm going to keep moving now to the physical aspect. Very often people who are in struggling families, especially if it's a critical situation, are experiencing tremendous health issues. Physically, mentally, certainly physically. They're just not strong enough to deal with everything that's attacking them. And so that will reside and show up in their physical health. If I keep moving, relational health. Very often these folks have cut themselves off from other people because they see their life as being one of punishment, and they don't see how they can really relate to other people. Resourceful is, how do I find the resources I need to meet my needs? It could be I need to find a job and I need a network, and that's one aspect of resourceful. Another aspect of resourceful is my finances. How do I budget? How do I save my energy? How do I set myself up to find the things that I need in order to be successful? You will find that people really will focus on one, maybe 2 of these if they're in the fight, flight, or freeze mentality, because they just haven't explored all of these. These will be new to them, but they have more resilience and more strength areas than they know they do. And last, certainly not least, is spiritual. And just like with all the other areas, I don't want to tell people what to believe or what to think. I do, however, want to explore with them what their options are and how they might find strength in this path of their life, because it is a strength. Research is very clear that people with a strong spiritual belief structure regardless of what that spiritual belief structure is. Let me just define that. Let's think about that being that I'm connected to something much bigger than I am. All by my little self, I'm connected to something much bigger, and something much bigger than my family. And I have a place in that spiritual structure. I'm valued and respected there, and I am of importance there. One of the things that you'll eventually get to is the struggle clarity. What is the struggle? What's really going on? And notice this is not first. It's not even second on the list of things you want to deal with. It's not even third. Because this person does need to develop trust. They need to begin to know who they are so that they can begin to tell their story. And one of the things that they'll do is they will share their awareness level of the story with you. Pieces of it will be totally accurate, and pieces of it may be perception only. You won't know that for a while, but it's important when you get to the struggle clarity piece that you do identify what their awareness is and what they see as the struggle. Their subconscious mind, as I mentioned earlier, is huge. Subconscious mind is where we identify who we are. That's where our real vision of ourself is. That's where we really define who I am, who I'm going to be, what I can and cannot be. And if people believe they cannot, as the saying goes, if you believe you can, you're right. If you believe you can't, you're also right. So the subconscious mind is huge to work on and to deal with once you get to this level, because many times members of struggling families have believed things that very well are not true about themselves. They have a lot more capability than they realize. But beginning to open that aperture, beginning to see that becomes huge. And then last but certainly not least are those emotions that come with those messages that they've received and that awareness that they believe they've had. What has my experience been? Much of that is going to be wrapped up in their emotions, and that will likely hijack them at different parts in the conversation, and they will be unable to process additionally because they need to process the emotions. But I really want to spend time helping people think about, so where am I now? And where can I go? Yeah, the past is part of me, but it doesn't define my present, and it definitely does not define my future. And last but not least, who was at the core of the struggle? Generally in a family, there's a perceived core person. This person was the hoarder. This person was gluttonous. Whatever it may be, there's one person that is at the core of the struggle. And there will be a lot of emotion that's tied up in identifying that person, and that person may very well change. In abuse cases I've worked with, there may be one person initially who's identified as the core of the struggle. But over time, as this person reflects and thinks about their life and the experiences that they've had, there may be another person who comes up and becomes the core, who allowed it to happen in the family, for example. So lots of different things here that come once you get to the struggle clarity part of the conversation. When we've completed talking about the struggle that they've experienced, it's really important, I find, to come back and look at these 6 areas of their life and have them to do a vision board or a map or whatever you'd like to do. It can be visual in nature. It can be a list on paper where they're talking about what do I want my life to be in 1 year? What do I want it to look like? What do I want it to feel like? What do I want it to smell like? What do I want it to sound like? Yes, I mean smell like. And all of those won't be appropriate for every person in every situation, but you want to have them look at each of these 6 areas through their lens of each of their senses. What will it be like? What do I want? What do I want to embrace? And then we'll come up with a plan on how we move forward with that. But identifying the vision, and when you start to work with people on this, because they've likely not done anything like this, you may find that what they have emotionally is exactly counterproductive to what they want relationally. And so you may have to help them work through some different clarities there so that they're in balance and they're all focused in the same direction. But it's absolutely one of the most powerful parts of the process that I've experienced. At this point, it's time to bring the family together. And it's one of the most exciting things when whole people come together to be whole together, to create that NBA quality team, to create that Super Bowl quality team. They're strong now. They're not necessarily pulled as strongly into the past. They've begun to see themselves differently, and so they can begin to see each other differently. And this is a powerful and exciting period of time. Let me just mention a couple of missteps that I want to encourage you to avoid, because I've seen these completely derail a struggling family. And when I see them derail them, I mean put them on the path that you don't want them on, where there's more shame, there's more guilt. The first of which I mentioned earlier is starting with the whole family. They're really not able to support each other. They don't know who they are themselves. And so they need to identify and have some personal agency for their own lives before they can start to work together as a team. A second one is forgetting to check the judgment, telling people what they should be doing. Well, here's what you should believe. Well, you should go to my church or my synagogue or my mosque. And you're perfectly free to invite people to consider your thoughts or the way that you live your life. But I want to encourage you to step away from the judgment and the guidance, telling people what to do, because I've seen it backfire. I've seen it become a whole new, deeper level of struggling, because they aren't strong enough at this point to believe that they have the personal agency, and they don't have any integrity with themselves because they believe themselves to be bad or damaged. And so ensuring that you check the judgment and the direction giving at the door becomes really critical. And the third here is timing for the process. I am all about somebody getting healthy, getting a family back together, in working together as quickly as is humanly possible. But I will sacrifice time for quality, because I've seen that be an impediment. You hear, if you've ever known someone who works in a factory or a production environment, there's always schedule and quality that are at competing ends. And in this type of work, my experience consistently is, if you sacrifice quality for schedule, it will backfire, more than likely. So let me encourage you not to do that. I'm really looking forward to connecting with you, seeing how I might be able to further help you or a group that you're involved with. I do a lot of trainings, being from the world of education, that's my background, and I'm very excited to talk with you about how I can support you or you and your group as you move toward stronger support and more effective support of struggling families. I look forward to talking with you.